Welcome to the Till Death Paranormal podcast, where my wife Claire
and my husband Si dive into the true tales of hauntings, possessions, and the unexplainable.
Each week we share chilling stories, explore the darker corners of the supernatural, and maybe even laugh through the fear.
So grab your brew, fetch your flashlight,
lock the doors, and remember,
the dead don't always stay quiet. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Now, this is usually the part where we would tell you guys listening what the episode is going to be about. But before we get into that, we would like to tell you more about the new sponsor we have.
Yeah, that's right. Now, if you're into the paranormal and all things weird, then this should be right up your alley. But what is it, Claire?
Well, the sponsor of this podcast is called Haunted. And what they are trying to do, we've never really seen before.
Haunted is a map-based app that is currently in development, and it's on Kickstarter.
Now, I know what you're thinking, another Kickstarter project that has been done a million times, but we generally believe in this one, and we think it's going to be a fantastic tool for all the paranormal lovers out there.
So what Haunted is doing is creating what is essentially Google or Apple Maps, but with pins at every validated haunted location. And if you click on that location, it will come up with the lore, the history, and also people's experiences that they have uploaded themselves through the Haunted app.
As well as that, Haunted is working on a badge XP system so you can earn badges for visiting places and show them off to other users on the app.
For me, an app like this would be essential if I'm exploring or investigating, but even just at home, looking at the map and finding interesting places, lore and people's stories would be absolutely awesome.
Now, on top of all that, Haunted will have links to spooky stores, nearby events, investigation equipment and even social forums to chat and discuss with other paranormal enthusiasts.
Currently, the US map is under construction and has 3,950 different haunted locations, complete and with descriptions.
And the plan for Haunted is to then open up to the UK and other countries and push this community-driven app to the forefront for people who like the paranormal, cryptics and even UFO sightings.
So if, like us, you believe Haunted could be an indispensable app for research, investigations and of course to meet like-minded people, then feel free to support Haunted on Kickstarter, or at least spread the word to your paranormal pals, because this may be huge.
So go give Haunted your support. All the info and links will be at the bottom of our description box and also on our website.
So now let's get into it.
Each week we delve into different supernatural topics, and this week it's about demons and exorcisms.
We will be discussing the exorcism of Roland Doe this week and delving into the history, the explainable and the unexplainable.
So let's kick off with some basics, shall we?
The exorcism of Roland Doe, the true story that inspired William Peter Blatty's novel, and the iconic 1973 film The Exorcist. Now, if you've seen the movie, you know it's about a young girl named Regan who becomes possessed by a demon. But the real case was actually about a 13-year-old boy from Maryland in 1949. And the truth is somehow both more mundane and more terrifying than anything Hollywood created.
Now, this case is very unique because we actually have contemporary documentation, a detailed diary kept by one of the priests involved, Father Raymond Bishop. So, unlike many paranormal cases that rely on decade-old memories and everything in between, we have real-time accounts written as the event actually unfolded itself.
Which is good because, like you just said, a lot of the time you're going off people's memories.
Yeah.
And over time, those memories change or
Gets complicated.
Yeah, it turns more into what you think happened than what actually happened.
Yeah.
So having actual documentation following this is quite cool and quite rare.
Yeah. So today we're going to be separating fact from fiction, explore what really happened to this teenage boy in 1949 and examine how this case became the foundation for one of the most influential horror stories ever told.
Fair warning, this episode deals with disturbing content involving a minor, religious themes and some graphic descriptions. We'll be respectful but honest about what the historical record actually shows.
So let's start with the basics again. So Roland Doe was never the boy's real name. It was a made-up name used by the Catholic Church to protect his identity. He was also sometimes called Robbie Mannheim in various accounts as well.
For decades, his true identity remained a mystery, but in December 2021, researchers revealed that Roland Doe was actually Ronald Edwin Hunkeler, who lived a completely normal life after the exorcism and died in 2020 at the age of 85.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Bless him. In early 1949, Roland was a 13-year-old boy, living in Cottage City, Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C., with his parents and grandmother. By all accounts, he was a normal kid, no history of mental illness, behavioural problems, nothing like that, or anything which suggests what was about to happen to the poor boy.
The family was Lutheran, not Catholic, which makes their eventual turn to Catholic priests for help even more interesting. This wasn't a family steeped in Catholic demonology or exorcism traditions.
So Roland was described as a quiet and somewhat introverted boy. He was close to his Aunt Tilly, who lived with the family and had introduced him to using a Ouija board. This detail becomes crucial to understanding how the alleged possession began.
What's important to understand here is that this was post-World War II America. Spiritualism and seances had become popular during the war as families desperate for news about loved ones turned to the supernatural. The Ouija board wasn't seen as particularly dangerous. It was sold as a parlour game.
So Roland's family's situation was fairly typical for the time, a working class family dealing with the stresses of the post-war economy, multi-generational living arrangements, and a teenager going through normal adolescent changes.
But in January 1949, something happened that would transform this ordinary family into the centre of one of the most documented exorcism cases in history.
The story begins in January 1949, shortly after Roland's beloved Aunt Tilly died unexpectedly. She had been the one who introduced Roland to the Ouija board, and according to the family accounts, he was devastated by her death.
The first strange incidents were relatively minor, as, if you heard our last episode, they usually start off.
Yeah.
The family reported hearing scratching sounds in the walls of their home, particularly at night. They initially assumed they had mice or rats, but exterminators found no evidence of rodents.
Yeah. And then came the sounds of dripping water, but no source could be found. Kitchen utensils would be found in different places than where they'd been left. Small objects would go missing and then reappear in odd locations.
Roland's behaviour began to change around this time. His mother reported that he would wake up screaming in the middle of the night, claiming something was in his room. He became withdrawn and refused to sleep alone.
The phenomenon escalated when Roland's bed began shaking violently at night. His parents would rush into his room to find the bed bouncing and moving across the floor, even with Roland lying still on it.
Now, this is where we need to pause and consider the context. This was 1949. No internet, no widespread knowledge of poltergeist phenomena or sleep disorders. A family experiencing these events would have very limited frames of reference for understanding what was actually happening.
Can you imagine that? You've got no reference to go back and research it, nothing.
Well,
you literally talk to your neighbours going, oh, we've had this happen, have you had it in your house?
Put your life now, and for you listeners at home, have your life now, but remove your phone, your PC, your laptop, your tablets. Just remove all of that.
Well, we wouldn't even find out this research.
I know.
It's mad.
Just remove everything, and you've got... Well, in fact, if you removed everything, you probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast.
Well, no,
so
exactly.
I retract the last statement.
So the scratching sounds grew louder and seemed to follow Roland around the house. Family members reported hearing the sounds even when Roland wasn't home, but they were always strongest near wherever he had been.
Perhaps most disturbing were the scratch marks that began appearing on Roland's body. His parents would find him with fresh scratches on his arms, chest and legs. Marks that seemed to appear overnight while he slept.
The family tried rational explanations. Maybe Roland was scratching himself in his sleep due to stress from his aunt's death. Maybe the house had structural issues causing the noises, but as the weeks went on, the phenomenon became impossible to ignore or explain away, basically. You couldn't explain anything that was going on.
And by February 1949, the family was pretty desperate. The scratching sounds had become so loud that even the neighbours had started to complain. Roland was barely sleeping, his grades were suffering, and the entire household was on edge.
That's when Roland's mother made a decision that would change everything. She decided to contact their pastor for help, but this pastor would soon refer them to someone with more experience in the matters, the Catholic Church. Now, that is a mum crying out for help there if you're going to your pastor, because
Yeah, exactly. And then he's
if it's getting
sending you
weird
to
and
a
it's
different faith.
Yeah.
Completely
Sending
for help.
completely different faith. And the fact that it's happened to your child, I know I would go that far if something like that ever happened to our children.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't know what to do. I mean, you'd go to the doctors and everything. Now, this is back in 1949.
Exactly,
but
yeah.
you'd want to know what the hell's going on.
Of course you would.
Yeah, it's just awful.
In February 1949, Roland's mother approached their Lutheran, I don't even know if I'm saying that right, minister, Reverend Luther Miles Schultz, asking for help with what she believed might be supernatural phenomena that's affecting her son.
So Reverend Schultz at the time was initially sceptical, but he agreed to spend a night at the family's home to observe what was happening. According to his later account, he witnessed the bed shaking, heard the scratching sounds, and saw what appeared to be objects moving on their own.
Importantly, Schultz noted that the phenomena seemed to be centred around Roland himself. When the boy left the room, the activity would diminish or stop entirely. This observation would become crucial to later interpretations of the case.
Realising he was out of its depths, Schultz made a referral that would define the entire case. He contacted Father E. Albert Hughes, a Catholic priest in the area, believing that the Catholic Church's experience with exorcism might be necessary.
And now here's where the story gets a little murky. Many accounts claim that Father Hughes visited the home and witnessed dramatic supernatural phenomena, but recent investigations suggest that this may never have actually happened.
So what we do know for certain is that the family eventually connected with Father Raymond Bishop, a priest who was teaching at St. Louis University. Father Bishop would become the key documenter of everything that followed.
The family's decision to turn to Catholic priests is fascinating from a cultural perspective. This was a Protestant family seeking help from a church they didn't belong to, based purely on the Catholic Church's reputation for dealing with supernatural matters like this.
So Father Bishop first met Roland on March the 9th, 1949, and immediately began keeping a detailed diary of his observations. This diary would become the primary source document for everything we know about this case.
What's the matter? Cat got your tongue?
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a lot. There's a lot in this one.
According to Bishop's notes, he witnessed the scratches appearing on Roland's body in real time.
Wow.
He saw the bed moving violently and observed what he described as supernatural strength when Roland would struggle against the restraints. Now, these are all in his notes.
This is what freaks me out.
Now,
these are actual notes.
Unless he's a fucking great author or
Yeah.
storyteller, then there must be something to this.
There's got to be.
Yeah.
So, but Bishop also noted some things that don't fit the typical possession narrative. Roland was often lucid and conversational between episodes. He seemed confused and frightened by what was happening to him, rather than displaying the typical malevolent personality associated with demonic possession. God.
On March 11th, 1949, Father Bishop was joined by his superior, Father William Bowden, posh name, who would eventually become the lead exorcist in the case. Together, they made a decision that would define Roland's story forever.
So they determined that Roland Doe was generally possessed by a demonic entity and that a formal exorcism would be necessary to save him. So is that the guy with the hat on and in front of the house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that your best?
Yeah, I can't remember how the tune goes. It's been a while.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So the formal exorcism of Roland Doe began in March 1949 and would continue on and off for over a month. This wasn't a single dramatic ceremony like in the movie. It was a prolonged, exhausting process that tested everyone involved.
Yeah, this went on for a while. Father Bowden, who led the exorcism, was 52 years old and was experienced in church matters, but this was his first exorcism. His assistant, Father Bishop, was 43 and equally new to this kind of spiritual warfare.
So the exorcism took place primarily at the Alexian Brothers Hospital in St. Louis, Missouri, where Roland had been taken for his own safety. The family had moved there temporarily to be closer to the priests and to the medical support they might need.
According to Father Bishop's diary, the exorcism sessions were brutal and exhausting. Roland would thrash violently, requiring multiple people to hold him down. Bearing in mind this is a 13-year-old boy. His voice would change, becoming deeper and more menacing.
The priest reported that Roland would speak in Latin despite having no knowledge of this language. He would also reveal personal information about the priest's lives that he couldn't possibly have known through normal means. Oh, God, it's making me shiver now.
Especially without internet phones, research.
Yeah. And what 13-year-old's going to start Googling the priest anyway in this time, right? Do you know what I mean?
I know. But there's literally no way of gaining information back then either, was there?
No.
But here's where it gets interesting and controversial. Bishop's diary also records many sessions where Roland was completely normal, joking with the priest and asking questions about what was happening to him.
The physical phenomenon during the exorcism were extreme. Roland's body temperature would spike dramatically. The scratches on his body would appear and disappear. Objects in the room would allegedly move without even being touched.
One of the most famous incidents involved the word hell appearing scratched across Roland's chest in large letters. This became one of the most cited pieces of evidence for genuine supernatural activity.
However, modern investigators have noted several problematic aspects of these accounts. Many of the most dramatic incidents have only Father Bishop's word as evidence. No photographs were taken, no independent medical professionals documented the actual phenomenon.
And that's where you lose it then, don't you?
Because you haven't got the evidence. This is why when you go and investigate somewhere or anything like this, you need the evidence to back it up.
Yeah, you got to take, but again...
This is back in 1949.
He probably couldn't afford a camera.
No.
So, but he documented it as best he can in the book at the time, so it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
The exorcism process was also physically and psychologically traumatic for Roland. He was restrained for hours at a time, subjected to repeat religious rituals he didn't understand, and isolated from his normal support systems.
Father Bishop's diary reveals that there were several false endings to the case. Multiple times the priest thought the demon had been expelled, only to have the phenomenon return days or even weeks later.
The final exorcism session took place on April 18th, 1949, so you can see how long this has been going on for. Easter Monday. According to Bishop's diary, Roland suddenly spoke in a different voice, saying, "He's gone," and then collapsed, exhausted but apparently free.
Bishop wrote in his diary, "Since Monday at 11 p.m, there have been no indications of the presence of the devil." After more than a month of spiritual and physical ordeal, Roland Doe was finally declared free of the demonic possession.
After the exorcism ended in April 1949, Roland Doe essentially disappeared from all public attention, which was exactly what his family wanted.
He returned to Maryland with his family and resumed his normal life. By all accounts, he never experienced anything like the phenomena of early 19... Oh, fucking hell.
Right, the reason why she's laughing is because you may have heard her, instead of saying phenomena, she's actually saying phenomenon. So
anything like the phenomena of early 1949 again. He graduated from high school, went to college, got married, had children, and worked... Oh, wow. And worked in NASA's space program.
Yeah, pretty cool,
That's
right?
amazing to come from that.
I know. For decades, his identity remained one of the best-kept secrets in paranormal history. The priests involved, the family members, and Roland himself were never publicly revealed his real name or spoken detail about the experiences.
When author William Peter Black began researching his novel, The Exorcist, in the 1960s, he was able to access some information about the case, but even he never learnt Roland's true identity.
Roland, whose real name we now know was Ronald Hunkeler, lived a completely ordinary life for the next 70 years. He became an engineer and worked for NASA during the Apollo missions and raised a family in suburban Maryland.
Neighbours and colleagues had no idea they were living and working alongside the person who had inspired one of the most famous horror stories in history. By all accounts, he was a quiet, normal man who never discussed his childhood experiences.
Good on him.
Yeah.
Ronald Hunkeler died in 2020 at the age of 85, taking most of his memories of the 1949 events to his grave. His family has chosen to maintain privacy about the case, understanding the media attention that it would bring.
The fact that Roland lived such a normal life, productive life after the exorcism raises important question about what actually happened. in 1949 and whether the dramatic intervention was necessary or was it helpful.
Now, let's examine the case from a more sceptical viewpoint, because there are significant problems with accepting the Roland Doe story as genuine supernatural phenomena.
Yeah, first we have to acknowledge that much of what we know about this case comes from a single source, Father Bishop's diary. There were no independent investigators, no medical professionals documenting the phenomena, and no photographic evidence.
Modern psychologists and psychiatrists who have studied the case suggest that Roland may have been experiencing what we now recognise as conversion disorder, a psychological condition where emotional distress manifests as physical symptoms.
Okay, the timing is significant. Roland had just lost his beloved aunt, was going through normal adolescent changes, and was living in a multi-generational home with its own stresses there. You've got how many generations under your house?
Exactly, yeah.
These are all risk factors for psychological disturbance.
The phenomena that started the case, scratching sounds, moving objects, bed shaking, are all consistent with what's known as poltergeist activity, which many researchers believe is actually unconscious psychokinesis caused by adolescents under stress.
Now, Roland's ability to speak Latin and reveal personal information about the priest can be explained through what psychologists called cryptomnesia, accessing forgotten memories or overheard conversations stored in the subconscious.
What 13-year-old boy has overheard someone talking Latin?
Was Latin a language spoken in the 1949?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because psychokinesis, right? You've got psychokinesis, then you've got cryptomnesia, or whatever. I mean, but then he was absolutely fine after. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
really, does it? But either way, the scratches appearing on Roland's body are perhaps the most troubling aspect from a skeptical perspective. It's entirely possible that a distressed teenager could be self-harming, either consciously or unconsciously, especially during intense psychological episodes.
There's also the issue of suggestion and expectation. Once the family and the priest decided this was a case of demonic possession, Roland may have unconsciously begun exhibiting the behaviours expected of a possessed person. How are you going to know that when you're a 13-year-old boy?
Exactly, yeah.
In 1949, it's not like they've seen movies about possession yet.
No,
because The Exorcist was the first one.
Yeah, none of that shit.
No, there's none of that, and that was done in the 60s.
That's what I mean. So you can say as much as this, but something's still wrong. The fact that Roland was completely normal between episodes, seemed confused by what was happening to him, and never displayed genuine malevolent personality changes, all argue against traditional possession and toward psychological disturbance.
So perhaps most telling, the phenomena completely stopped after the exorcism and never returned. If this was a genuine demonic possession, it's unusual for the resolution to be a complete and permanent. It's never heard of.
Yeah, just for it to stop.
Just for it to stop completely. Permanently.
Critics also point out that the case occurred during a time of heightened religious anxiety in post-war America, where concerns about moral and spiritual threats were particularly acute.
To the point of where you're going to fake a demonic possession, though.
I know, you're a 13-year-old kid, you should just be thinking about going out and playing with your mates.
Oh, yeah. I don't get it. I mean, he had the loss of his auntie and stuff, but I don't know.
So how does the real events transpose over to the novel and the film, The Exorcist?
Right, so the transformation of Roland Doe's story into The Exorcist is fascinating because author William Peter Blatty, is it? Yeah, made some very deliberate changes that dramatically altered how we perceive the case.
First and most obviously, Blatty changed the possessed person from a 13-year-old boy to a 12-year-old girl. He later explained that he did this partly to protect Roland's identity, but also because he felt a young girl's possession would be more dramatically compelling.
Blatty also created the iconic image of the possessed person's head spinning completely around and projectile vomiting, none of which appeared in Father Bishop's diary or any account of the real case.
The novel and film added the famous crucifix masturbation scene, the levitating bed and the green vomit, all Hollywood creations designed to shock audiences, which it did.
Yeah.
When The Exorcist
people
first
were coming
came
out throwing up.
People were were coming out the cinema.
They were coming out being
absolutely
sick.
Fucking destroyed, weren't they?
Yeah.
But the real Roland never exhibited anything like this.
Perhaps most importantly, Blatty created a much more dramatic backstory involving archaeologists, ancient demons, and specific supernatural entities. The real case had no such elaborate mythology.
The movie's priests, Father Carras and Father Merrin, were composites and fictional characters, not based on the actual priests involved in Roland's case. Father Bowden and Father Bishop were both alive when the movie was made, but had no input on their fictional counterparts.
Blatty also compressed the timeline dramatically. The real exorcism took over a month of intermittent sessions. The movie presented it as much shorter, more intense period of constant supernatural warfare.
What's interesting is that these changes were so effective that many people now believe the Hollywood version is closer to what actually happened. The fictional elements have become accepted as historical fact in popular culture.
So the success of The Exorcist also influenced how later paranormal investigators and even the Catholic Church approached possession cases. The movie created expectations about what possession should look like, potentially influencing how similar cases were interpreted.
Ironically, the real Roland Doe case was probably more psychologically complex and humanly tragic than anything Blatty created for entertainment. A troubled teenager's mental health crisis became cultural shorthand for ultimate evil. So, what do we make of the Roland Doe case in 2025? Was this a genuine supernatural encounter? A psychological crisis misinterpreted through a religious lens? Or something in between?
The truth is probably more mundane than either believers or skeptics want to admit. We have a 13-year-old boy who experienced some kind of serious psychological disturbance following the death of a beloved family member.
In 1949, the tools for understanding and treating adolescent mental health issues were primitive, at best. The family did what they thought was best with the resources available to them at the time. They sought help from religious authorities who interpreted the situation through their own theological framework.
Whether the exorcism actually helped Roland or whether he simply recovered naturally over time is impossible to determine. What we do know is that he went on to live a completely normal and a very productive life.
The case raises important questions about how we interpret unusual experiences, especially involving children. Are we too quick to pathologise what previous generations might have seen as spiritual crisis?
From a cultural perspective, the Roland Doe case became something much larger than the original events. It became a lens through which America processed anxieties about good and evil, faith and science, the supernatural and the psychological.
The Exorcist turned Roland's personal trauma into entertainment, but it also sparked serious conversations about the nature of evil, the power of faith, and the limits of both medical and spiritual intervention.
For paranormal investigators, the case remains controversial. Believers point to the detailed contemporary documentation and the multiple witnesses. Skeptics highlight the lack of independent verification and the psychological explanations for the phenomena.
What's undeniable, though, is that the Roland Doe case changed how we think about possession, exorcism, and the intersection of psychology and spirituality. Whether you believe it was supernatural or not, it remains one of those most influential paranormal cases in modern history.
And perhaps that's the real legacy of Roland Doe. Not the question of whether demons are real, but how a frightened teenager's cry for help became the foundation for our culture's most enduring horror story.
So, possessions.
Yeah.
How do you feel about possessions?
I'm on the fence still.
It's a hard one.
It is a hard one.
We've seen a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we've seen stuff like I think it's one of those you've got to experience it yourself.
There's footage. There's lots of evidence of different exorcisms and stuff over the fucking decades.
Yeah, and obviously films have dramatised
it's hard
the stories, like for instance, The Exorcist.
Yeah, it's hard to nail down exactly what is going on sometimes.
Like I think it can happen, but not to the degree that people think it can happen, like with the head spinning round and
all that.
Do
you think something can take over you?
I think it can, yeah. But then also I see the skeptic point of view, like how your mental health.
It's
can
easy
cause
enough
that
to
as
just say
easy
they're a
enough.
nut job, innit?
Yeah, because I've struggled with my mental health, and I know I've been a completely different person when I was really poorly. I wasn't myself at all.
No, you're still a nut job now.
No, thanks. But do you know what I mean? There's like there's a balance there, and it's like there is stuff that can happen, but there is also a scientific and mental thing that you can.
What I don't understand is, don't get me wrong, with the skeptical side of it, yes, you can easily have someone that's just having a breakdown. They're acting strange, they're a bit psychotic, blah blah blah. That could quite easily be your brain fucked up, right? Quite easily.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is, and I can't get my head round, the fact that during not just this Roland Doe exorcism, but other exorcisms, when they just start speaking Latin.
Yeah, but then there's also that there's a medical issue that you can have where there's that you can have a tumour in your brain and it actually makes you start talking a different language.
Yeah, but not Latin.
Yeah, but you won't even know. But it could be Latin.
I don't understand that.
Do you know what I mean? The brain's a very strong tool. And it's
I know, we only use
very
like fucking 5% of whatever the fuck it is. You only used to.
I used to, yeah.
But what I'm saying is,
mine's like the scratches.
Latin's a fucking dead language. It's like Welsh. It has been dead for ages, right? But
like Welsh.
And I don't understand how you can just. Everyone's heard French, German, the base Spanish, things like that.
Yeah, English.
Not fucking Latin.
No, I don't even know a word in.
So even if your brain has heard those languages, French, the common languages. Like maybe it can pull some bits together and figure it out, but not a language it's probably never fucking heard before.
It's like I said, it's one of those that I think you'd have to experience it to believe it. Like that's what I believe.
Not that you want to.
Not like I want to, no. But
that's what I confirm.
I think I don't want to be possessed. Thank you. I do not give anyone permission to possess me.
Yeah.
But it is one of them. I think I'd have to truly, fully believe it.
You got to see it.
Yeah, I've got to see it to believe it, and it not even see it. It'd have to happen to myself for me to believe it, because I'd still stand there if someone was getting possessed, going, "They're faking that."
Oh yeah,
it's like, really, is that going to happen?
Is
that going to happen? Really?
Well, fix under your eyes if
But then also they'd have to make sure they have the evidence there, like the Exorcist one. They only had that priest one.
Yeah,
the father bishop's
his diary, basically.
But there was no other evidence. Whereas now we've got the equipment that we can get the verification.
But how many exorcisms get?
I mean, we've seen a few.
They do hide a lot of this anyway. But how many recent exorcisms have there been?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And now we've got the equipment and tools. It doesn't seem to be.
But the problem is, like, the thing at the minute now is faith. And like the faith is slowly dying. Like you see churches not around as much anymore. You don't see a lot of priests around. You don't see a lot of that. So what's going to happen if that diminishes?
Seeing a child interested in the church these days
is very rare. It would be mostly the parents that they've got them to go.
And even they're going.
And even the parents.
Don't go to church.
So we don't. I've never been. I've been to a few times, but nothing.
But what, like,
regularly.
You try pulling your child away from TikTok
to go to church on a Sunday.
Not going to happen, is it?
No.
They're going to start doing sermons on TikTok.
Yeah. Which they probably do.
They probably do,
yeah.
But it's nuts. But I think faith is dying.
I think faith is dying, and I think faith is a strong thing. Like, I'm not a churchgoer, I'm not, but with us more delving into this, I said to you, haven't I? I think we need to maybe start looking more at that side of stuff as well. Because if there's evil, there's good, there's evil.
If there's evil,
that balance.
Then there has to be, one balances out the other.
One balances out the other. So if we believe in this, why shouldn't we believe in faith? And have that faith?
Because it lets children die.
Yeah, that's our big one.
And that shouldn't be a thing.
But that's a whole other.
Oh yeah, that's the whole other thing.
But
that's not for this podcast.
That's not for this podcast. No, that's going too deep. So.
Yeah.
But
if you want to listen to that, come over to Faith with Me with Si.
Stop mocking the faith.
I'm not.
So yeah, that's what I think. I'm still on the fence. I think it's a very hard one to.
It's a very hard
understand.
Yeah.
Like, especially with our experience that we've had.
Yeah.
that's made us believers of the paranormal.
Yeah.
But there's this side of the paranormal where I'm still a bit skeptic.
Where we don't really believe as much in exorcisms.
Well, with us doing this
possession.
podcast, it actually might make us, because this is the first time we've delved into anything like this.
Properly, yeah.
This is the first time we've delved into an exorcism, and it is actually really shocking.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah,
yeah, it was a weird one, this one, wasn't it, love?
It was, and we're going to have more weird stuff coming up in this season and future seasons as well. But we want to know what you think.
Yeah. Are you a believer or you a skeptic? Let us know.
If you do have a paranormal story, email us at tilldeathparapod@gmail.com.
And to speak to us, join our Discord community, Till Death Society, by using the links on the description and all our socials.
And just remember, not everything
that knocks should be answered.